Hello, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this encore presentation. I'm here with Michael Pope and we're going to be talking to you about property investing portfolio, so how we build a property investment portfolio that will give us passive income for life. Remember, it's not about the number of properties you own, it's about the income that they produce. So we're going to take you through around a 15 to 20 minute presentation that will further illustrate to you in more detail the presentation that was featured on the recent segment. But before we get started, I just need to read our disclaimer. This presentation has been prepared without taking account of the objectives, financial situation or needs of any particular individual viewer. This information is educational in nature, and if any of this information is perceived as advice, then this advice is general advice only. We encourage those looking to make any future investments to consider the appropriateness of any investment to your needs, and before taking any action, to ensure you build adequate knowledge and seek professional advice or guidance from qualified and, if applicable, licensed professionals. Examples used in this presentation are for illustration purposes only. So enough with the disclaimer. Let's just introduce you who's presenting here tonight. So Michael Pope, who heads up our personal accounting division, and myself as the founder of Empower Wealth. Michael and I spend our days inside the business designing property investment portfolios using our very powerful simulation tool and obviously the skill of the advisors that we have here at Empower Wealth. Anyway, let's get into it. So let's firstly introduce the example couple that we were illustrating on the TV program. And this example couple is a couple with two incomes and one child, combined gross income of $115,000. They own their own home and they're paying off a mortgage. They would like to retire in 25 years on a very ambitious $100,000 a year in income. And basically, this is a further example, or in a bit more detail, let's have a look at their personal circumstances. They have income of $115,000, which we mentioned earlier. They've got a house that's worth $450,000 and super of $115,000. They've got a current debt on their existing property of $330,000, and they've got bills and lifestyle expenses of around $39,000 per annum and repayments of $28,000, leaving them a surplus of $2,150 per month. So let's have a look at the four slides that we showed during the TV segment. We're talking about the first property being, this is the first investment property being purchased this year as an example, of $450,000. We've got rental income of $20,000 per annum. We've got interest debt of $25,000. So in this particular case, we've got a deficit of $5,000, which equates to around $96 per week. Now, that's just an illustration of one property now, but if we take a view over the longer term, let's assume that this can buy one investment property now, another one in 4 years, and another one in 7 years of exactly the same value, that $450,000. In doing so, let's have a look at what their situation looks like after 10 years. Now you can see here, there are the three properties. The rental income hasn't changed. You'll notice there that the interest debt has changed, or the interest costs, I should say, have changed. And you can see the surplus there, which I'll talk about in a minute. But Michael, do you just want to explain why we're actually showing a higher interest level there?
Okay, Ben. Well, look, the situation is that we're buying one property this year, and what we're doing is we're looking at a property which we could buy today for $450,000, and we're borrowing enough money to buy that property, and we're paying interest on that amount. Then we're buying another property in year 4, and then another property in year 7. But by that time, the properties will be more expensive. We're anticipating in this modelling prices increasing at 5% a year. Very conservative, I know, but that's just a number we're using. And so in 6 years' time, those properties will be more expensive. We'll need to borrow more money to buy them, and therefore we'll be paying more interest on that borrowed money. So although each of the houses are comparable, because we've bought them at different times, we've borrowed different amounts of money, and so we're paying different amounts of interest on those three properties.
And you'll see there that over a period of time, what was originally a negative property, if we looked at it, remember it was only costing us $96 a week to hold. That property is now turned positively geared by $124 per week. The second property which we bought in is also turned positively geared at $41 per week, and that last property that we bought in year 7 is still negatively geared. Let's fast forward to 20 years from now, And I've combined these to keep it nice and simple in the TV program. So you've got rental income combined of $151,000. You've got overall global debt, which is costing us $72,000, and that's leaving us a surplus of $79,179, or $1,500 per week as income from those particular properties. But again, the devil's in the detail. That is just a top line story. So when we look at the combined value of those properties, we're actually talking about those properties being worth around $3.42 million in 20 years' time from now. And that's assuming a growth rate of 5% per annum. But again, the devil's in the detail. So let's go into our fact find and just explain more about how we've come to those numbers, Michael. And we'll take the people watching this through that illustration.
Thanks, Ben. This is the questionnaire, the fact find that we use to help people record their current financial circumstances, because that's the first step of any analysis we do, is understand where people are now. So we'll just take you through our example couple, and their names are James and Melissa Example. They have one child, Emma, age 7. And so this is the couple we're talking about, purely hypothetical, to illustrate the point we're making here. As we've said in the previous slide presentation, combined income of $150,000 a year, and their current home worth $450,000, and they've also managed to save $100,000 in their offset account. So that's giving them some cash to get started with their investment strategy. They've also got some money in superannuation, but of course they won't be able to touch that until they reach retirement age. As mentioned, they've got a $330,000 mortgage on their current home, which they're still paying off. They have a credit card, but the lack of figures here means that they're actually paying that off in full every month, so they're not incurring any fees, charges or interest on their credit card. When it comes to a summary of the situation for our hypothetical couple, we see their incomes here. We've allowed for their tax situation, and what we've worked out here allowed for them to have, as Ben said in the slide pack, total spending on living, lifestyle, bill payments, etc. of $39,000 a year. Their loan payments are currently $28,000 a year, giving them total outgoings of around $67,000. Then we compare that with their net income, just short of $93,000, leaving them a surplus each month of $2,150, and that's the money that we've got available.
And just to add to Michael's comments there, you notice we just quickly click through the bills and the spending page. That's because we just summarise those. So bills are things like your regular commitments, like your electricity, your rent, or if you're renting, any insurance you may have, internet, banking fees, education fees. And if you go into spending, Michael, you can see that that's groceries, any educational expenditure, personal care, furniture, household fares, donations, holidays, and some of the more discretionary nature type. So all we've done there is just summarise those for this illustration into a cost of around $3,250. So just wanted to document that so we weren't missing a step there in our explanation of what we're doing here. So overall we've got this basically this $2,150 that we're looking to put to work. So Michael will now take us over to our purposely built simulator tool. Now this is a tool that we use inside our business that we have designed over the last 3 to 3.5 years. And this is built specifically for property investment. And it's built around the ability for the people here, the qualified advisors who work inside our business, to allow us to design and build multiple properties inside a portfolio. There are so many tools out there that look at a property and its performance in isolation, but there's nothing out there that takes people through this in terms of their global movements of money. So that's income coming in and expenditure, taxation, and then money available for investing. And in our particular case, obviously, it's for property investing. So we're seeing here age of the people. We quickly go down and we can see the current situation, and then how our model works is we've got the opportunity to do multiple scenarios for clients. We're not going to be doing those in this short presentation, but we will come down to scenario 3 where we'll talk about the current situation. So there's our family home, there's our incomes coming in for James and Melissa, our hypothetical couple. We've got the $100,000 in the offset account, which we've been able to save up through good disciplined action inside the household. And then you can see there we've got the 3 investment purchases, one in September of 2012, one in September of 2015 and one in 2018. And you can see we've got the capital growth there at 5% for each of those properties, which is conservative. In my view, our business, we do target providing investment grade assets that should be delivering around 7 to 8% per annum. And there's obviously even better performers than that. But in most of our modelling, we like to outperform the market in terms of the investment advice we give around selecting investment grade properties. And you can also see there we've got the rental yield sitting at 4.9%. So I would believe those to be conservative numbers, but that's why we wanted to just illustrate how it is possible to do such a thing. And again, illustration, you can't just go out and buy any property and do it as per this illustration, because you will potentially get yourself into some financial stress. So it's really important that you understand that this is purposes only. And we then go down and see we've got the existing mortgage on the owner-occupied home. We've switched that over to interest only, so we can release that surplus cash and make sure that we can provide enough money that's comfortable to allow us to now accommodate this debt that we're about to get into to build this portfolio that's going to provide us our passive income. So you'll see there that the family home, we've got the interest at 7%, and in these particular properties we actually have adjusted those for the market today, and there are plenty of interest rates out there around that 6%, and even some fixed rates there sub 6% at the moment as well that are available when we are recording this today. So it's really important to note that we've got all of that information based in there. So let's now have a look at the wealth projection. And inside that wealth projection, let me just explain this graph that you're seeing there. That's the global story. You can see that the debt line is represented by the yellowy orange line, and you can see that debt is transpiring as we build up time, but you can see it also creeping up there on the 3 purchases that we make. The blue is representing our owner-occupied home, the red is representing the investment properties, and the white is representing our savings and cash and superannuation that we have available to us. So overall, that's a globe that you're actually seeing there. Now, in terms of the left-hand side of the page, we've got a lot of numbers there and a lot of information going on. So let me just step through the critical things. The first thing is the total assets. So you can see if we look at total assets in year 2012, which is now, we've got 565,000, and you can see that in the increments that they grow, 10 years, 20 years, and then retirement, that looks like 8.2 million, because that's based on future value terms. And then you can also see the debt levels there. So our debt peaking in 2022 at 1.587 million. So obviously we've got to retire that debt down, and that's part of the very sophisticated modelling we do there. And then the most important column there that I want to show you is our nest egg. Now, nest egg is talking about our investments. Now, it's the investments that are going to introduce the passive income that we're looking for. So you can see with the investments in the first or now, because we're borrowing to get into this investment property, we're in negative equity, so we've got negative investments. But over the course of the generations, the 10-year increments and then the final retirement, you can see that our nest egg grows to 7.254 million. Now, if we assume that you're getting a cent yield and only 4%, then you'll be very pleased to learn that that will deliver you $110,000 passive income, which you'll be able to comfortably retire on. And as you can see, the longer you hold those assets, potentially the more wealth you're growing and the bigger pay rise you can give yourself. So in James and Melissa's case, our illustration couple, it's amazing to think that over the course of that journey of 3 investment properties, we've been able to substitute their income, and remember their gross income was $115,000, and give them a passive income for life, which is all about what we try to do in our business every day when we sit down and design overall strategies and then the tactical implementation of those strategies as well. So Michael, do you want to just show a little bit more detail that's going on behind the scenes here to illustrate how we got to those numbers?
Yeah, thanks, Ben. At the end of the day, this is a picture about assets and debt, but that's only part of the story. What's going on behind the scenes is cash flow, that is income and spending, and we need to understand income and spending on a month-by-month basis to be able to get to the point where we understand how much these guys have got in terms of debt and in terms of savings each month for the next 40 years before we can get to the point of being able to produce this graph. So let's just step behind the scenes briefly and have a look at some of the numbers that are going on in the background here. See here is we've got James's salary coming in and increasing as we suggested at 3% a year. We've got the investment income coming in, so this is the first property kicking in, and then we see the second property and the third property kicking in terms of income. We also see here the deductible investment expenses, so any costs associated with owning these properties is deductible against the income received, and so that allows us to get the taxation benefits. And so taxable income is shown here, and income tax leading us through to a final column here of net income for James. We've also got Melissa's income, again increasing at 3%, but where we want to get to is here where we find out the household combined net income. And then from that we can take away their living expenses, again increasing at 3% a year. The regular payments, now this is the amounts that they're paying off their loan, and so we see in the first year they're paying off their mortgage and the first investment loan kicks in, and then the second and the third investment loan kick in. But then because they're able to pay down the debt and reduce the amount of interest they're charged, eventually that amount that they have to pay to service those loans reduces in year 25 to zero. Expenses associated with the property. Owning a property involves rates, insurance, maintenance and so forth, and so that's what's in this column. And then finally in this surplus cash flow, what we can see is, this is the important part, is what's left over. So this is income minus spending gives us our surplus cash flow. And finally in the final column here we've got our accumulated surplus cash flow, so this is the money we've been able to save. Now it's probably worth pointing out there are three negative numbers here highlighted in red. This is the cash contribution that James and Melissa are making each time they purchase a property. So buying a property in year 1, in year 4 and year 7, they need to kick in a bit of cash each time, and the way we've modelled this, it may not be the way we do it if we model it for you, but the idea here is that they've still been able to have enough money in their savings account to keep their household functioning. In spite of buying these properties, there's plenty of surplus cash flow there to see them through.
And Mike was just illustrating the year by year, but behind that is actually 40 years of month-by-month calculations. And there are literally hundreds of thousands of calculations going on based on around the 37 variables that we've got inside this tool, such as occupancy rates, we've got indexation, we've got maintenance on the property, we've got interest rate adjustments, we've got selling cost expenditures, we've got all of these variables, lines of credit costs that may be involved, we've got performance on the assets around capital growth and also yield performance. So again, Michael's sort of, with this particular illustration, Michael's just making mention is that everyone's circumstances are completely different, and I think that's the message from this, is that this is purely an illustration, but we believe that most households have got the capacity to build a small, if not large, portfolio of properties based on sensible, long-term strategies that are really based around testing the household's ability to afford those investments. And that's really important, because what we've just showed you is quite simple to look at. Now, the devil in the detail behind it wasn't that easy, was it? I mean, you may have got lost in some of Michael's explanations, and that's fine. That's obviously what we need to understand, because we're the professional advisors who are helping you tailor a solution that's relevant to your circumstances. And everyone's circumstances are completely different. The other thing that we can do inside our simulator is put in any type of variations, such as one-off holidays, planning for wedding, having new children, putting our kids through private school versus public school, buying new cars. All of these things are events in our life that are natural events, and they happen for the majority of us. So it's nice to know that when you're buying an investment property, you're still comfortably going to be able to afford it in 3, 4 or 5 years' time, when your income circumstances may change. So that's really the essence of our information here. It is really just to show you that it is possible to build a multi-million-dollar property portfolio and have a passive income for life. And it's not about the number. You can see here we haven't gone out and bought 14, 15, 16 properties, and you may be focusing on retiring earlier. So your strategy might be tailored differently, and that's why you come and see us, because we can again provide a tailored solution to your particular circumstances. So if it's something you want to learn more about, we do provide a complimentary review, and that complimentary review just starts by filling out the fact find. And if you click on the MPTV link on our website, which will be shown by the logo, or it's empowerwealth.com.au/MPTV, then you'll be able to find this information and you'll be able to book and request a complimentary review of your current situation. Now, as part of that review, we will be looking at your mortgages. We will be looking at how you manage money, and we'll be able to provide you with an insight, a brief insight into what's possible about your circumstances. And then if you like what you hear, then you can potentially engage us to assist you in building a portfolio and maybe building a plan that you want implemented. So the choice is yours. We do thank you very much for watching this presentation. And on behalf of Michael Pope and myself, we wish you all the best and happy investing. Bye for now.